Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. I flinched as the car drove away, my heart still racing. Malone had seen me. The truth I'd been hiding was out there now. Or was it? I looked back just in time to see his car turning right at the crossroads. He hadn't glanced our way once. Maybe, just maybe, he hadn't realized it was me. The windows in our car were only halfway down, and the tint offered some cover. But I couldn't tell if I should be relieved or afraid. What was that all about? Swash asked, watching me through the rearview mirror. Huh. I blinked, playing it off. You were staring at that car like it meant something. Oh, that. I thought I recognized the driver. It wasn't a full lie. Just not the whole truth either. I figured that made it feel a little less wrong. Really? You looked like you saw a ghost. Maybe I'm just cold, I muttered, rolling up my window to make the excuse more believable. Swash gave me a puzzled glance but didn't press further. The rest of the ride was quiet. Even Bradley had stopped tapping on the window. I kept my gaze outside, hoping Swash wouldn't catch any more of what I was thinking. The museum was just as impressive as I remembered. Bradley, of course, rushed straight to the dinosaur exhibit, barely acknowledging the rest. I wandered the halls, looking at ancient artifacts and framed portraits. Each piece told a story, a piece of someone's legacy. Would I ever matter that much? Would my name be remembered? A weird spiral. I was clearly overthinking. But I knew why. I was trying to drown out the thoughts of Malone. The guilt. The regret. I wanted to forget how I'd left things with him, how I had no real choice back then. But knowing my reasons didn't make it any easier to bear. Mike. I snapped back to the present and looked at Swash. He seemed genuinely concerned. You've been zoning out ever since we got here. Sorry. Just have a lot on my mind. Does it have to do with the guy you thought you recognized? I hesitated. More lies? I'd told so many already I couldn't keep track. What's his name? Swash was watching me closely, his expression unreadable. I froze. Lying again felt impossible. Malone, I finally said. And what did he do to you? His tone shifted, protective, even angry. I looked down. He's my boyfriend. I said it so softly I wasn't sure he heard. Until I saw him freeze. So, it's official? All I could do was nod. He sighed and looked away. Bradley was still off in his own world, captivated by the towering skeletons. I envied him. Everything was so simple through a child's eyes. Swash looked back at me and I couldn't tell if he was upset, disappointed, or something else entirely. I closed my eyes. This was turning out to be a terrible Saturday. The rest of the visit passed in a blur. When Swash announced it was time to leave, I hadn't even realized how much time had passed. The ride home was quiet, too quiet. Bradley had fallen asleep in the back seat, leaving Swash and me alone with the silence. He kept glancing my way, and I kept pretending not to notice. Eventually, the silence started to wear on me. I didn't understand why he seemed upset. I had told him from the start that I wasn't available. He knew that. Still, maybe I'd confused him. Maybe when I said things with Malone weren't serious, I'd given him the wrong idea. I sighed, loud enough for Swash to glance over again. When I didn't speak, he looked back at the road. Back at the condo, Swash gently carried Bradley inside while I held the doors. Even the elevator ride felt heavy with unspoken words. Once inside, he took Bradley to his room, and I sat on the couch, pretending to focus on the TV. But my thoughts refused to settle. Swash came back out looking exhausted. I couldn't take it anymore. Swash. He looked at me, clearly not in the mood for a heart-to-heart. But we had to talk. Maybe it was best if I just left tomorrow. Are you upset with me? No. I'm not mad. Then what is it? I sat up straighter, trying to show him I was ready for honesty. Nothing. I'm just tired, I guess. There is something wrong, and I need you to be honest with me. He didn't respond. His expression was unreadable. Fine, I said, sighing. If you don't want to talk, that's okay. I just want to know if we're still friends. Sure. We are, he said flatly. Something about the way he said it didn't feel like a yes. Then he stood up. I'm going to my room. It's only 7:30. But he didn't answer. He just walked away and shut his door behind him. I leaned back on the couch and groaned. How had things gotten so complicated? A few hours ago, I was confused between my feelings for Malone and whatever I might have been feeling for Swash. But now Swash wasn't speaking to me and Malone probably hated me. Everything felt like it was unraveling. I closed my eyes, trying to focus on anything else. Work, friends, anything. But even that reminded me of Malone. That's how we met in the first place. I thought about Dorian and Bates getting married. I hadn't even told the others yet. Maybe they'd hear through someone else. I thought of Jason. Tom was supposed to visit this weekend. He'd probably tried calling me. I hadn't touched my phone in days. It was still off. I hadn't even realized. Being in this house made the outside world feel so far away. I had to leave. Just 2 more days, Michael. 2 more days until Monday. I woke up with a jolt. Had I been dreaming? I couldn't remember. I didn't even remember falling asleep. It was dark outside. The clock read 2:22 a.m. And there it was, food. I could smell it. Did Swash and Bradley eat dinner without me? I felt my stomach growl. I hadn't eaten since morning. Sighing, I dragged myself to the fridge. Only a few slices of bread were left. It would have to do. I made a quick jam sandwich, but the bread felt dry, the taste dull. I wasn't sure if it was the food or just my mood. I made another, trying to spread the jam evenly, but it spilled over the edge. I huffed in frustration. Michael! I turned. Bradley was standing there in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes sleepily. I sighed. I didn't have the energy. Let me guess, I said half-heartedly. Another bad dream? He nodded slowly. I sighed again. His eyes searched mine, like he was hoping I'd do or say something comforting. Go to your dad. He'll keep you safe. Bradley shook his head quickly, his face tightening in fear. Look, the people in your dreams can't hurt you, okay? Either go to Swash, or try going back to sleep. The words came out harsher than I meant. I sounded irritated, but it wasn't him, it was everything else boiling up and slipping out. Bradley's eyes welled up, his tiny frame trembling on the spot. My chest tightened immediately. Bradley, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. But it was too late. He turned and quietly walked into Swash's room, closing the door behind him. I sat there on the kitchen stool, my half-finished apology hanging in the air. I'd never felt so alone. The rest of my sandwich ended up in the trash. Appetite gone, I walked back to my room, opened the window, and climbed into bed. I welcomed the cold. Maybe it would numb the ache in my chest. Somewhere along the line, I'd started caring. And now? A 4-year-old's rejection hurt more than I expected. The cold air rushed into the room, and soon goosebumps lined my arms. I curled under the blanket, silently shivering, and eventually fell asleep. The sunlight the next morning hit my eyes like a spotlight. I felt terrible. I stumbled out of bed, noticing how cold it was despite the sun streaming in. My head hurt, my nose was stuffy, and I generally felt like I had been run over by my own emotions. I went to the bathroom, took care of the essentials, and brushed my teeth, though I wasn't planning to go anywhere. It wasn't like I had anything meaningful to do. And it wasn't just the physical headache. I'd managed to lose the only real connection I had, twice. Here I was, crashing in the home of someone I didn't think I had a future with, and I'd even pushed away his child, the one person in this whole mess who saw me without judgment. I needed air. I needed out. The living room was still and cold. I turned on the radiator and sat quietly for a while, not even bothering with the TV. It wasn't going to distract me. I stared at the clock. 10:32 a.m. After 30 minutes of doing nothing, I got up, drank some juice straight from the fridge, then headed back to my room. I threw on a clean t-shirt, laced up a pair of sneakers, grabbed my keys and phone, and left the apartment without saying anything. The air outside hit me like a reset button. I walked slowly toward the main street, hoping to catch a cab and figure out what came next. I needed to think. I needed to go home. Maybe, just maybe, I could go back to Malone and try to make things right. I'd tell him everything. I'd be honest. And if he meant what he said, if he really cared, maybe he'd give me another chance. I flagged down an empty cab and told the driver to head toward Boys Town. As we drove, I stared out at the Chicago skyline. You're still just a small fish, I told myself. And these are small fish problems. But they were my problems. And whether I was a trout or a shark didn't really matter. Dismissing them wouldn't make them disappear. For once, I smiled at my own internal monologue. I was arguing with myself, and maybe that was progress. The cab dropped me off in front of my building. I tipped the driver a little extra. It felt good to be back. The moment I opened my apartment door, I took a deep breath. It smelled like familiar, warm, even a little comforting. I flopped onto my bed without thinking, rolling across the covers like a kid returning from summer camp. I didn't know why I did it, but it felt right. Then I got up and took a long, hot shower. I wanted to feel like myself again, wear my own clothes, stand in my own space. Afterward, I put on a plain blue t-shirt and some track pants. The laundry pile in the corner caught my eye. While I had the time, I stuffed everything into a duffel bag and headed to the laundromat. The soft whirring of the washing machine filled the silence around me, setting the rhythm for my thoughts. Maybe I should see Malone. Maybe I should call him. Then I remembered, I hadn't charged my phone. Great. Another delay. I told myself I'd deal with it later. I thought about what else I could do today. Go to the station? That would mean dealing with Nathan and his relentless teasing. Visit Jason? Possibly. But with the way time was slipping by, I might miss visiting hours at the hospital. I figured I'd save that for another day. I could go out and try to have some fun, but fun usually costs money, and I didn't exactly have a lot of that right now. Staying in was the easiest option. Still, something in me said, go, see Nathan. I decided to listen. The machine beeped, time for the spin cycle. By 5:04 p.m., I was at Dorian's apartment. I'd left my phone charging at home and spent the time after laundry putting things away, organizing my space. It felt good to do something routine. I braced myself at the door, ready for Nathan's usual stream of jokes and probing questions. I even had a polite smile ready. But when I opened the door, the apartment was dark. And empty. I stepped inside, puzzled. Maybe Nathan was in the bathroom? Nathan? I called out. No reply. Something felt off. The computer was off, the lights were off, everything was off. Nathan wouldn't just leave like that. I turned on the lights and locked the door behind me, then checked the computer. The website we were working on had been paused, set to resume Monday morning when I was supposed to return to work. One unread message blinked on the screen. I clicked it. Michael, I can't believe you didn't tell us Dorian was getting married. I've tried calling you so many times, but your phone kept going to voicemail. Maybe it's off, or maybe Mr. Glynn is being his usual controlling self. Either way, we're flying to New York for the wedding. They sent tickets for all of us. I left yours in Mr. Glynn's mailbox on Wednesday. I hope you find it in time. If not, we'll take plenty of pictures. Hope you're doing okay. Have fun. We definitely will. Emmett. My heart sank. They were all going to New York. Without me. And I hadn't even known. I sat in Dorian's apartment, feeling drained and alone. Everyone was gone. Not everyone, I reminded myself, but everyone who mattered. I still had to organize the rookies tomorrow. With a sigh, I clicked back to the site administration page and looked at my profile. Fully booked until next Monday. I sighed again. I wish Dorian had added an option to cancel bookings, but that would probably lead to chaos. Slumping back in the chair, I let out a groan. Life just felt heavy. I didn't have to be at Swash's right now, especially with Emmett and Dorian out of town, but my conscience wouldn't let me skip. Swash had done me a favor and was paying generously. I owed it to him to at least try. Maybe I could convince him to cancel the rest of the booking. I didn't need it anymore. And I doubted he did either. I grabbed my jacket and left the apartment. I needed a distraction. Back at my place, I reached for my phone. It had to be fully charged by now. I turned it on and stared at the screen. 16 new voice messages. But might as well listen. Michael? Where are you? It's past 2 already and you're supposed to be at the station. Anyway, call me back when you get this. Nathan. That was probably from Monday, when I had hospital stuff with Tom and that bank appointment. I sighed and clicked to the next. Michael, Nathan again, this time using a playful voice. You won't even spare a measly $1,000 for me? Call me back, baby. I laughed. The way he delivered it sounded like something from a late-night radio show. My mind started to wander into weird territory, but I shook it off and chuckled again. Oh my gosh, Mike, why didn't you tell us Hunky Dory was getting married? Our tickets just arrived. Pick up your phone so I can yell at you in person? But just call me back, okay? That had to be Emmett. I smiled. Of course, I was the first to find out about the wedding, and the only one who missed it. Life's little ironies. Michael, The message cut off. I couldn't even tell who it was. I thought about checking the number, but decided to keep going. Mike, I sent Alex to Swash to drop off your tickets. I don't know why you're not answering, but I hope you're there. Call me once you get this, okay? Emmett again. That one was from Wednesday. He couldn't leave work, so he had Alex deliver the tickets. I felt a wave of guilt. Seriously, Mike, pick up. I don't know if these are even going through. Em said to call once I got to the apartment, but you weren't answering the door. Anyway, your ticket's in the mail. Hope you get it. Alex. His voice sounded just as smooth as ever. I shook my head. Focus, Mike. That message was from the day I passed out on Swash's magical couch. Also, the day Swash officially got custody of Bradley. My thoughts shifted. I owed that kid an apology. We had our own kind of friendship and I missed him. Michael? I've been trying to reach you, and I guess I have to resort to voice messages now. I haven't heard from you since your trip. Call me back. I miss you. My heart stopped. Malone. I quickly checked the timestamp. I should call him. Maybe I could explain everything, but this wasn't a phone conversation. Some things needed to be said face to face. Everyone's getting ready for New York. You still haven't called me back. I really hope you got your ticket and that you'll be at the airport tomorrow. We all miss you. Maybe Swash is keeping you offline. Emmett chuckled at the end. Classic Emmett, always throwing in a cheeky comment. I smiled. For a second, everything felt normal. Oh, and one more thing, Mike, we saw Jason yesterday. He's doing better. That really nice doctor said he might be discharged next week. He kept asking about you. We all are. Please call back. That tugged at my chest. Everyone cared about me. And what had I done to deserve it? Baby, why are you doing this? I miss you. Please call me back. Malone again. His tone was softer this time. I wasn't sure if he was joking or not, but I smiled anyway. Michael, it's Emmett. We're heading to the airport. Not sure why I keep leaving these if you're not answering. Maybe you'll surprise us and show up. Or maybe Mr. Glynn has you on a tight leash. I heard someone laugh in the background, probably Nathan. We'll keep an eye out at the airport. Or maybe you'll just meet us on the plane. You have flown before, right? Anyway, call us. Mike, it's Robert. Can't find you at the airport. Guess you're not coming. See you next week. Straight to the point. Classic Rob. I winced. Another reminder I had missed Dorian's wedding. Good evening, Michael. It's Tom. I just got back into town and was hoping we could meet tomorrow, Saturday, if you're free. I'm staying at the same hotel. Let me know. Take care. So Tom did come back this weekend. The same weekend when Mike, I really need to see you. Any chance you could stop by in the middle of your little vacation and catch up? Maybe it's too much to ask. I'd go to you if I knew where you were. I just really miss you. Please call. Malone again. I missed him too. I really needed to see him. Not just for closure, but for clarity. Hello, Michael, it's Tom again. I just left the hospital. Jason's doing okay, not fully recovered, but way better than last week. He might be discharged next week. Just thought you should know. I'm heading home. Take care. Michael, where are you? End of message. Swash. That was the last one. Dropped 4 hours ago. I tossed the phone onto my bed as if putting distance between us could undo the damage. I needed to do something, anything. And deep down, I already knew exactly what it was. Michael's POV. Hello. Mike. Yes, Malone, it's me. I know. I'm just surprised you called. Your phone's been off all week. Sorry. I forgot my charger while I was away. So, you got a new one? Actually, I just got back to my apartment. I'll probably head out again on Tuesday. Stay right there. He hung up. I knew he was probably already halfway to my place. I quickly changed clothes. Nothing too flashy, just a dark t-shirt, fitted jeans, and the shoes Swash gave me. I hesitated for a second. Wearing those shoes felt a little off considering I was about to see my boyfriend, but they looked too good to leave behind. I grabbed my jacket and headed downstairs. It was chilly outside, but Malone pulled up in less than 10 minutes. I wasn't surprised. He always drove like he was on a mission when it came to me. He rolled down the window quickly and reached out to kiss me. It was soft but full of longing, like he'd been holding that moment in for days. I kissed him back, gently, and he let out a quiet sound I had missed more than I'd realized. When we finally broke the kiss, he grinned like he'd just won the lottery. I climbed into the passenger seat, and we kissed again. He took my hand and held it tightly, but this time, he didn't rush anything. No impulsive roadside stops like he used to do, just stolen glances and that unspoken tension between us. We made it all the way to his place. He guided me inside, fingers laced with mine. I half expected him to pull me into the lobby like that one time, but instead, he led me upstairs to his room. As soon as the door shut, he wrapped his arms around me from behind and kissed my neck, his touch sending shivers down my spine. I melted into him, letting his affection fill the space between us. His hands rested on my chest, feeling my heartbeat beneath his fingertips. You have no idea how much I missed this, he whispered. I could say the same. His lips found mine again, and we stayed there, lost in the moment. There were no fireworks or wild chaos, just warmth. Reconnection. We eventually curled up together on his bed, talking quietly and laughing at silly things. It wasn't about passion tonight, it was about being close. About being seen. About being wanted. Later, as I lay in his arms, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Ejected to Swash. I turned it off and slid back under the covers. This time, I didn't mind missing the call. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of cold air and the comfort of Malone's duvet. He was already awake, lying beside me, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Good morning, I said. Hey, he replied, turning to kiss me gently. I didn't even flinch at the morning breath. That's how you know it's real. But then I noticed something off in his expression. What's wrong? I asked, sitting up slightly. He sighed and looked at me seriously. I don't want you doing that job anymore, he said quietly. The escort work. Oh, I trailed off. Why now? I thought I was okay with it. I really did. I'm not. I don't want to share you with anyone else. The thought of someone else touching you, kissing you, I hate it. He looked away, clearly struggling to admit what he felt. You're jealous, I said softly. I guess I am. I want you to be mine. Just mine. I nodded slowly, taking in the weight of his words. I get it, I said honestly. But that's the only income one have right now. I'll support you, he said without hesitation, until you find something else. And if you want, you can move in with me. That part caught me off guard. Move in? Don't you think that's kind of sudden? I don't care, he said, taking my hand. I know what I want. And I want you. I looked at him, searching for doubt. But there was none. Only sincerity and something that looked a lot like love. All right, I finally said. But I'll need time. I have to find a new job, sort out my stuff, let people know. Take all the time you need, he said, gently squeezing my hand. I smiled. He really was too good to me. Sometimes I felt like I didn't deserve him. As we lay there, he rubbed my arm and I closed my eyes with a quiet hum, completely at peace. Then he asked, almost as an afterthought. Michael. Yeah. You never actually left Chicago, did you? I froze. My heart skipped. And I didn't know what to say next. The lump in my throat made it impossible to speak. The room spun slightly around me. Malone knew. He had known all along, and he'd just been waiting for the perfect moment to trap me. My thoughts were scattered as I struggled to compose myself. Slowly, my brain began to catch up. A friend had. Don't lie to me, Michael. Not again. I sighed. Was the truth really that terrible? Maybe avoiding it made me look even more suspicious. It was now or never. I stayed with a friend after I got hurt at work. What kind of work-related injury? Malone raised an eyebrow, looking almost amused. I hesitated, then cracked a wry smile. Let's just say I overdid it physically. He chuckled. I did too. It was ridiculous. Then he suddenly stopped laughing. You stayed with someone else after you left me? No. It was before. So, when we were together, you were already hurt? I nodded. Yeah. Strangely, I didn't feel it until afterward. But it came back in full force. I could barely stand. Someone even had to help me into a cab. Malone let out a soft laugh. I nudged him. Hey, it wasn't funny. I was actually in pain. I know. It's just... He tried to stop grinning. I imagined the scene and I'll stop. His voice softened when he noticed my scowl. So, this friend, what's his name? Jeremy. That was the fastest lie I'd ever told. I didn't even know why I said it. I wanted to be honest about the situation, but not about the people involved. Swash had only helped me. He didn't deserve to be dragged into this. Jeremy was the first name that came to mind. I didn't even realize he'd made an impression on me. So, what exactly did you do with Jeremy for a week? Nothing much. Just stayed at his apartment and waited to feel better. He chuckled. You seem fine now. He leaned over and kissed me. But how did you end up booked for 2 weeks if all you did was stay with a friend? I asked him to do that. Just in case. Malone blinked. That must have been pricey. Yeah. It probably was. I considered telling him the full story. But no, he didn't need any wild ideas. It didn't matter anyway. I was planning to quit that part of my life. Dorian would understand, hopefully. Maybe even offer me some kind of parting support. He was married now, more focused on real relationships. So, Malone said, watching me carefully, your wealthy friend books you for 2 weeks, and you just sit around in his apartment? Yes. Michael. I'm not lying. I know it sounds unbelievable, but... Did something happen between you two? His expression was unreadable. There was a flicker of amusement, but also something sharper. Was he teasing, or genuinely upset? Either way, my answer was the same. No. He was just helping me while I recovered. And besides, he's with someone else. Also true, I just left out a few key details. Malone exhaled and smiled, looking relieved. He got out of bed and headed to the bathroom, pausing to give me a half-playful, half-skeptical look. I couldn't blame him. If someone told me a person had spent tens of thousands of dollars on someone who didn't reciprocate at all, I'd probably doubt it too. I slipped out of bed and stretched. The air was chilly. I followed him to the bathroom. He was brushing his teeth. I realized I didn't have a toothbrush here. I'd even left one at Swash's place. I shook my head. No thinking about other men in your boyfriend's house, Mike. You're on thin ice already. Do you have an extra toothbrush? Sure. I'll grab you one in a sec. That's what I thought he said. His voice was muffled through the foam in his mouth. I headed downstairs while he finished up. Suddenly, I felt really hungry. I grabbed a bottle of juice from the fridge. It wasn't much, but maybe it would stop my stomach from growling. I stood by the counter, looking around. The kitchen was spotless. Unlike Alex's place back in the day, before Emmett moved in and brought order. My own apartment's kitchen was practically unused. I hated the way cooking smells would linger, and in a studio, there was nowhere to escape it. Looking out into the rest of the house, I thought, I wouldn't mind living here. But moving in came with risks. What if we didn't work out? I'd seen too many perfect couples fall apart. We could easily become one of them. Maybe I'd keep my apartment for now, just in case. Still, I couldn't afford to pay for a place I wasn't using. Then again, Malone did seem to own this house. Michael! Malone called from upstairs. I'm in the kitchen. I got you a toothbrush. Thanks. Come back up. Take a shower with me. I smiled. There was no way it would be just a shower. I capped the juice bottle and returned to him. Later, I was in a cab, headed for Dorian's apartment. I felt good, better than I had in a long time. My heart felt lighter now that things with Malone were finally clear. He had even asked me to move in. Physically, I felt, well, let's just say the morning had been eventful. I'd had to convince him that today's job was nothing romantic, just a desk assignment. Only then did he let me go. I took out my phone, realizing it was still off. I powered it back on. Almost instantly, 2 voicemails popped up. No doubt both were from Swash. Beep. Michael, pick up the phone. I know you heard it the first time. You can't just disappear like that. What if something? I stopped the message and deleted it. Then played the next one. I love you. It was Malone's voice. I smiled to myself and quickly called him back. He answered after 2 rings. I love you too, I replied, and immediately ended the call before he could say anything else. I chuckled under my breath. It felt like we were playing a sweet, childish game of tag. A second later, my phone rang again. It was Malone. I love you more, he said quickly before hanging up. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The cab driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. I smiled sheepishly, and he returned his focus to the road. I thought about continuing the game once I reached Dorian's apartment. I spent the next few hours at the station with barely anything to do. Only 2 service requests came through, both for newer members of the team. One of them reminded everyone of Robert, calm, cool, and straight to the point. He had a slightly different build and look, but his demeanor was strikingly similar. The other was apparently a mini-me, though I didn't see it. Still, the others insisted, so I accepted it with a shrug. I gave him a call once I saw his request come in. Hello, Feist. Yeah? What's up? You've got one, James, waiting for you at North Halstead, Lakeview. Thanks. Mind sending me the address? Wait, are you meet? Yeah. No way. You're like a legend. You're officially my role model. Why is that? 23 grand. You've got to teach me your ways. I'm barely scraping by. You'll do just fine on your own. I'm retiring soon anyway. Hit the jackpot, huh? Something like that. I'll text you the address. I ended the call, still surprised how quickly word had spread. More surprising, though, was the fact that I had just shared my retirement plans with Felix, whose nickname was Feist, before I told Emmett or Dorian. I shook my head. Maybe I had made the decision long before, and Malone had simply given me the final push I needed. I thought back to the aftermath of the Michael Clive situation. That moment told me it was time to leave, and for some reason, the universe agreed. A door had opened, I just had to walk through it. After some more idle time and a short nap, I realized I needed to talk to someone. So, I called Emmett. Oh my gosh, Michael. How's New York? The wedding was incredible. Bates went all out. Dorian looked amazing, as always. They're already off to Fiji for the honeymoon. What happened to you? Everyone was trying to reach you. I left my charger at home and never left Swash's place. I didn't even know what was going on. I should have called. Sorry. Don't worry, Dorian's not upset. You must have been really tied up over there. Maybe we'll see you when we get back tomorrow. Sure. Actually, I've been thinking about quitting soon. There was a pause on the other end. You're serious about this guy? Yeah, I said, even though I wasn't talking about Swash. Saying otherwise would open up questions I wasn't ready to answer, like how I ended up falling for Malone in less than a week while pretending to be with someone else. Well, best of luck to you both. I'll tell Dorian after the honeymoon. I don't want to drop this on him right now. He'll understand. Everyone's got to move forward sometime. I'm nearly out myself, just trying to figure out what comes next. And honestly, Alex has been amazing. I get it, Mike. Thanks. That means a lot. Just don't rush anything, okay? I teased. He laughed and hung up. I felt a weight lift. Malone was supportive. Emmett was supportive. I was hopeful Dorian would be too. Life, for the first time in a while, felt like it was going somewhere good. I sighed, smiling to myself. The last week had been a whirlwind of emotions, but I could feel the tide finally turning. Maybe this really was my new beginning. It was midnight by the time I left Dorian's and headed home. As soon as I got to my apartment, I called Malone. "Hey Mal. Damn it. You done for the day?" "Yeah, I know this might sound weird, but I think I should finish out the week at Jeremy's place." "Why?" "You know, just to keep up appearances at work. Everyone thinks I'm staying there with him." "But you're not, right?" "No, definitely not." There was a pause. My heart picked up a little. "Please don't be upset." "Alright, but call me. Every day." "Why?" I tried not to sound too relieved. "So, he knows you're not available." He chuckled. "He already knows. I told him I have a boyfriend." "Seriously?" "Of course. You think I'd risk messing this up?" "I don't know. Would you?" "Don't be like that, Mal. You know I care about you." "Then prove it." "How?" "Call me. Every day." I laughed. "Fine. You win." "I always do. You just called me Mal. That's a win in itself." Jeremy, 0. Still laughing, I hung up and stared at my phone, smiling. Malone was amazing. I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it sooner. I stopped by my place just to grab my charger. I wasn't about to miss any calls this week. Then I had the driver take me to Swash's condo. As I stepped out of the cab, a strange wave of familiarity washed over me, like I was returning to something, maybe even home. I typed in the code and stepped inside. The building felt quiet, peaceful. I made my way to the 7th floor. The elevator ride was oddly comforting. Inside, the living room was dark and cold. Everyone must have been asleep. It was late. I figured I'd sneak into the guest room and explain myself in the morning. I didn't want to wake anyone, so I tiptoed across the floor and flipped on the lights. The brightness hit me like a wall. I squinted, my eyes tearing up for a second. As they adjusted, I froze. Swash was sitting at the dining table. His green eyes, usually calm, were locked onto mine, darkened and intense. He didn't speak, but the glare said enough. And in that silence, all I could think was, "Oh no. Where were you?" Swash's voice was calm, almost too calm. But the look in his eyes was something else entirely, stern, intense. The combination made me freeze in place. "I had to go see my boyfriend," I said carefully. "I called you. You didn't answer. Then you turned off your phone." His tone didn't change, but I could tell he wasn't just disappointed. He was hurt. "I assume you got my voice messages," he added. It wasn't a question. I gave a slow nod. I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to say anything that could make this worse. I wasn't sure how close he was to losing his temper, and honestly, I didn't want to find out. "So," he continued, locking eyes with me, "why didn't you call me back?" I hesitated. The truth? I was getting frustrated. Why all the interrogation? I went to see my boyfriend. What more was there to explain? I tried to keep my expression neutral. Showing irritation would only make things worse. "Do you have any idea how worried I was?" "Really, Swash? I'm 20, not a child. If you're worried about someone, talk to Bradley." I finally found my voice, and I wasn't going to just stand there and be scolded like a kid. "Don't bring up Bradley like that." He didn't yell, but there was steel in his words. It silenced me instantly. My bravado vanished, replaced with something more unsettling, guilt, maybe. "Do you understand that there's more than one way to hurt a child, Michael?" I blinked, confused. What was he talking about? I had never laid a hand on Bradley or said anything to deliberately upset him. "I'm sorry, Swash. What are you trying to say? Maybe you still haven't forgiven me. I get that. I messed things up. But that doesn't give you the right to take it out on Bradley." "Swash, what are you even?" 2 hours, Michael. That's how long it took to calm him down last night." He held up 2 fingers for emphasis. "That stopped me. Bradley said you're in his dreams now. Not in a good way. You and Tony. He said you told him to get over it when he had a nightmare." "I didn't mean." "Well, you did." His words cut deep. "Now he refuses to sleep. I was up most of the night. He blamed himself for you leaving. Said it was his fault. I'm really sorry." "You should be." I'm trying to build a safe, loving space for him. And now he's barely eating, barely speaking. His teacher noticed a change too. His voice softened a little, but the weight behind it didn't. Michael, he's already gone through so much. He's just a kid, and he thinks people hate him. That everyone's chasing him away, including you. That's what his dreams are about. That's what he feels. I don't hate him, I said quickly, my voice catching. And I don't hate you either. Then prove it. His tone wasn't harsh anymore. Just tired. Bradley needs people who care. People who show they care. I've been doing everything I can to help him feel safe again. I don't want to bring a psychologist into this if I can help it. He's scared enough as it is. But if you're not going to be a positive influence, then it's better you leave. That stung. Every word. Swash dropped into the nearby chair, exhausted. I could see how this was breaking him, trying to hold everything together. A single parent with a hurting child didn't need me making things harder. He didn't scream. He didn't demand anything. He just gave me the option to walk away. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. I'm staying, I said, my voice steadier now. But you have your own life. Your own relationship. You don't need to be here. I owe it to Bradley. I need to make things right. Swash looked at me, unreadable. Then he slowly stood and walked over. He stopped just a few inches away. I'll let you stay, because he needs to know he's not worthless. That not everyone walks away. But if you ever make him cry again, if I ever regret letting you stay. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. He walked toward the guest room. Hey, where are you going? I asked. Bradley's sleeping in my room tonight, he said quietly. You should stay with him. He closed the door behind him, and I stood alone in the hallway, letting the weight of everything sink in. This wasn't the Swash I was used to, the fun, unpredictable one, or even the flirty, charming one. This was the protector, the father. And honestly, he scared me a little. I walked into his room. His scent lingered in the air. I tiptoed toward the bed, careful not to wake Bradley. He was sleeping in the center, peaceful but tense, even in sleep. I laid down gently beside him. I closed my eyes, but the guilt and emotion churned inside me, keeping me wide awake. Dad. I opened my eyes. Bradley was awake now, staring at me with confusion that quickly turned to fear. Dad? He cried out. Shoo, Bradley. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Tears welled up in his eyes. I reached out, slowly touching his cheek. He flinched at first, but didn't pull away. I gently rubbed his face and offered the softest smile I could manage. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm sorry about what I said. I didn't mean it. I'm here now, and I promise no one's going to hurt you. Promise? He asked, eyes wide and searching. I promise. I'll be right here when you wake up. Where's Daddy? In the other room, I said softly. He's really tired. He asked me to stay with you tonight and keep you safe. Bradley gave a tiny smile and took my hand. He closed his eyes again. I stared at him, this little boy who just needed to feel safe, wanted, and loved. Swash was right. Maybe I wasn't supposed to stay forever. But right now, Bradley didn't need perfect. He needed someone. He needed a friend. I kissed his forehead, closed my eyes, and finally, despite everything, I found the strength to sleep. When I woke up, Bradley was gone. I sat up, blinking in the unfamiliar room. Well, not entirely unfamiliar. I'd slept here once before, but it still didn't feel like mine. It was Swash's space, his sanctuary, and I felt like an intruder. I dragged myself out of bed and stepped into the hallway. Bradley? Here, came a muffled reply. I followed the sound to the bathroom. Bradley stood on a stool, rinsing his toothbrush. He looked up and grinned. That smile, it was brighter than the morning sun. Did you sleep well? I asked. Yeah. Nobody chased me this time. I think they were scared of you, he said proudly. That's good, I said, chuckling. I wouldn't be much of a bodyguard if I wasn't at least a little scary. He laughed and my heart melted. It was the happiest sound I'd heard in days. He hopped off the stool, looked up at me with those bright eyes, and scampered into the living room. I followed, smiling to myself. Was this really the same kid Swash said hadn't smiled in 2 days? I paused outside the guest room and knocked gently. No answer. I peeked in. Swash was sprawled across the bed, fast asleep, looking completely wiped out. I decided to let him rest a bit longer. Maybe I could make breakfast. But I'd have to wake him soon, he had work. Back in the living room, Bradley was watching Discovery Channel, completely immersed. I admired his focus, even at this hour. I checked the fridge. There wasn't a lot, but there was cereal and milk, enough for breakfast. Bradley? I called. He turned to me, raising his eyebrows in that same way Swash always did. It was uncanny. Breakfast? I said, shaking the cereal box playfully. Okay, he said, hopping off the couch and running to the dining table. I set 2 bowls and poured the cereal. We sat down to eat. Where's Daddy? He asked between bites. Still sleeping. I think he was really tired. We're gonna be late. Don't worry. I'll take you to school today. What about Daddy? He might be a little late for work too. Bradley nodded and kept eating. I couldn't help but feel a quiet joy. This moment, just the 2 of us, felt like something rare and special. When we were done, we cleaned up and he returned to his show. I checked on Swash again, still asleep. He had to be at work by 8:30, and it was already 7:14. I went to brush my teeth quickly, then grabbed my jacket. Got your backpack? I asked. Jacket's inside. Perfect. Let's go. We held hands as we left the apartment. Morning traffic made it tough to get a cab, but we eventually flagged one down. Bradley talked the whole way, about school, his teacher, his essay. She sent it for a contest, he said proudly. She really liked it. I'm so proud of you, I said. I'm proud of you too, he replied with a grin. You gave me the idea. The driver smiled to himself, listening to our banter. We arrived a few minutes late, but Mrs. Perry hadn't started the first lesson yet. She smiled warmly when she saw us. Bradley said the essay idea came from you, she said. It's one of the most thoughtful pieces I've read in 15 years of teaching. Wow, I said, a little stunned. Thank you. Honestly, I just said something off the cuff. I didn't think it would go that far. Sometimes, those words come from the heart, she said. They go further than we think. I nodded, then apologized again for the tardiness. She waved it off. He seems so much happier today, she said. I'm just glad to see him smiling again. I smiled too. Thanks. I better get going. As I left, I waved to the other kids. Bradley gave me a grin so wide I could have sworn it lit up the room. In the reception area, I nearly bumped into Mr. Beatham, who was walking in with his daughter. He looked at me oddly, but I shrugged it off and headed out. Hey, he called after me. I turned. Yes. Aren't you a little young to be a dad? Or did you start early? He sneered. I held his gaze, staying calm. Actually, I'm not his father. But thanks for the concern. You think you're clever, huh? He said under his breath. Let me make one thing clear. Whatever you think you know, keep it to yourself. I gave him a measured look. You might want to think about how you talk around kids. Words have power, especially the ones that hurt. He stood there, momentarily stunned. I turned and walked away. I wasn't going to let anyone ruin the good feeling from this morning. In the cab back, I called Malone. Hey, I said, trying to sound lighthearted. Hey yourself, he replied, voice warm. Just letting you know I'm still yours. I never doubted it. How's everything? Busy but good. I'll try to swing by later. Let me know. I'd love to see you. Missing you already. I love you, I said softly. There was a pause, then the call ended. I blinked. Was that a bad sign? A few seconds later, he called back. Sorry, he said with a chuckle. Could you repeat that last part? Think the signal cut out. I laughed. I said I love why, click. He hung up again. Grinning, I texted, I said I love you. His reply came quickly. Sorry, the person you're trying to reach is unavailable. Please deliver that message in person. I burst out laughing. The cab driver glanced at me like I was nuts, but I didn't care. Nothing could ruin my mood. When I got back to Swash's place, it was 8:38. Hopefully he was already gone. I opened the guest room door, empty. I exhaled, relieved. The room was a little too warm, so I turned off the radiator and headed for the kitchen, stomach rumbling. Then I turned around. Swash was standing in the doorway, wrapped in a towel. I jumped back, startled. "Oh, I didn't know you were home." He smirked, raising an eyebrow. "Clearly." I turned my head away, trying to maintain composure. "The cereal's in the kitchen. Just so you know." He walked past, still smirking. "Thanks for everything." And with that, he disappeared down the hall. My heart was racing. The morning had gone from calm to chaotic in 2 seconds flat. But for the first time in a while, it felt like things were starting to fall into place. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.